Okay, good morning, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to hop on today for another one of our little short training webinars here with Prebuilt ML and associated versions. Just goal of these, if you've been on one of these before, the goal of these is just to have a short, quick training little session here, talk about a few different aspects of the software, hopefully take away a few tidbits with you to help you make you more efficient in the way you go. So, and then also, like I've mentioned before, draw your attention to the Q&A section in your webinar controls. Jacob's on there and can take any of the questions that maybe come in. You can either ask questions that relate to what we're already talking about, and we can try to answer some of those live, but also totally feel free to use that Q&A area to ask questions about maybe other topics as well that you're wondering about, and we can either answer those in session or follow up with you afterward, or Jacob can give you some answers even right away as well. So again, find that option there in the Q&A section. Today we're kind of talking more over in the digitizer area. Wanted to touch on just some general functions that may or may not you may be aware of in certain areas. So starting over here in the pages list. So first of all is just the concept that you can actually multi-select different pages in the pages list. So you can do that using pretty much standard Windows type functions where you can either use the control key on your keyboard to individually select. So I have this page selected, I could select this page, and then maybe I want to come down to the bottom and select that page. So I've got 4 different pages that are selected right now. You can also use the shift key. If I click the top line item or maybe a middle one, and then I come down and I want to select a whole row of stuff or whole series of items, I can select the bottom while I hold shift and select all of those in between. So control and shift, different ways to get multiple pages selected in the pages list. So then you might ask the question is like, well, okay, that's fine. We can select pages, but what value is that? So one of those values relates to scaling. So if you've scaled like the first page in your pages list, and it was a nice clean PDF, you assigned a 1/4 inch per foot, and then you did a check of it, and it come out beautiful. It's like, okay, very likely this whole plan is going to scale out nicely. So you could apply that scale across all of the pages. So for example, like I could come here, I could select this page since this one's not scaled yet, and this one, and this one, and this one, or this one here, and I can hold down control to select those ones, and then when I right click, now notice all of them are still selected. I can get a little bit different menu item here. I can now set all of those selected pages to a particular scale. So that would be a way that you could apply a scale across 20, 30, 40, 50 pages of a plan all at once. Now, of course, when you're bulk scaling, it's always a good idea to come back as you start out to draw on a page to cross-check it, make sure it's good. But it would save a whole lot of clicking rather than having to set each of those individual scales. In addition to that, you are not only are you able to set the standard scales across a page, you're also able to assign a custom scale. So for example, here, I've got this page that I've actually scaled manually. You can see my page scale is like about 5/32 is what the scale ended up being. If I was finding that, again, that was probably going to be consistent across the PDF. Maybe it was a PDF that was like printed to PDF at 95%. So it's like the scales weren't off, but on the other hand, they were very consistent across the whole PDF. You could take that custom scale and apply it across all the rest of the pages. And the way I could do that is leveraging that multi-select. I could come here. And actually, I'm not going to select that first page. Just going to select this one and say this one. And so let's say I wanted these pages right here to have that same scale as that. So what I can do is I can right click and I can say apply the scale of this page to the selected pages. So even though it's obviously not going to show up here in this list, of exactly how I scaled out that page, I can still take this very custom scale that's been applied to this page and apply it to all of these other pages. Again, always cross-check and make sure as you start to draw on it that you're getting what you expect, but ways that you can you can do that. So that's kind of the pages list. Lots of other functions there we could talk about, but I'm going to jump on to the takeoff items list, touch on a couple of areas there. Again, just in passing, I'll mention that same idea of multi-select in the takeoff items list. That's also available when it comes to like control and shift, to get to multiple items or everything in the list all at once. You can use those different functionalities to work in the takeoff items list as well. But what I wanted to talk about was move selection here, which is kind of a pretty cool feature that you can leverage a lot of different ways. I'm going to show you the basics of it, but as you get into it, you might find actually that there's a lot of different ways that you can leverage this. So I'm going to show you just in basic right now. Let's say that I've drawn in some walls here, but they're just not really part of anything. They're just some interior lines that I've drawn. And I really want these to just be part of this interior wall that I have right here. I just want this group of items to be part of that. So one of the ways that you can do that is I can come here to the takeoff items list, is often the easiest way to do it. I'm going to click on that set of lines. So by left clicking here in the takeoff items list, I'm selecting the whole batch. So I've got everything selected. And I'm going to come down here to my 4-inch interior wall, and I'm going to choose the option for move selection here. Basically what that's saying is it's looking for whatever is currently selected on the page, take that item and move it and put it inside of this takeoff item list, this takeoff item right here. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do move selection here. When I do, you can see all those lines, they got pulled inside of this 4-inch interior unsheathed. They also took on all those properties, and now it's basically a part of that group of takeoff items. So really effective tool to be able to move things in and out and around. Another example of how you could leverage this might be because not only does it work for unassigned things, it also works for assigned things. Now, let's say, for example, that I wanted this wall right here that's part of the interior wall, and I wanted to make it a part of this exterior wall. Kind of odd, but let's just say that I wanted to do that. Since I only have, but here in this case, I'm just selecting this one line. So I don't have to select the whole batch. I can just select an individual piece or 2 or 3 pieces. And I'm going to, again, come here and I'm going to right click on my sheathed. And I'm going to say move selection here. And just that one item then gets moved out, adopts the properties of that exterior wall, and now becomes part of it. So great opportunities there, and we can investigate. You can imagine further ways that you might leverage that, but lots of different ways that you can make use of that feature. So that's the move selection here command. One other one in the takeoff items list before we jump over into the digitizer itself relates to page or pack visibility. I'm going to come down here to a page where I've drawn some stuff on the front elevation, and you can see I've got a few different packs that are here that I've associated stuff. Some of this goes in my roof pack, some comes with an exterior trim. Now you can imagine this being on a page where maybe you have an upper floor framing and a second floor framing, and you've got an upper floor and a second floor and a ceiling framing, and you've got all these different stuff, and you're wanting to toggle visibility based on the pack. So use like, I just want to see the main floor framing, or I just want to see the upper floor framing, or just the ceiling framing. Be able to toggle the visibility by pack. So up here in the takeoff items list, you'll see that you have this option here that it says adjust takeoff item visibility by list and pack. If you hit this fly out, you can see I've got options here to toggle based on a particular pack assignment. So I can say, yeah, I want to see just the stuff that's in the roof. So now only the stuff that's in the roof is actually visible, and you can see it's followed that down here accordingly. Or I can say, hey, just turn on the stuff that's exterior trim. And again, that is followed down here. You can, of course, continue to adjust this and as needed, and then use the master light bulb again. It's basically just a quick way to be able to change the visibility of what you have on the page based on what pack those items have been assigned to. Jumping over to the digitizer itself, I want to talk about a couple different selection methods. Now, these selection methods is going to relate to that feature we just talked about of move selection here. also is going to relate to the multi-select capabilities that we'll talk about in just a second. I'm going to come over here to this example roof building, or no, I'm going to go to the floor. So here we've got our floor. And let's say that I wanted to select some different stuff on this page. So a couple different ways I can do that. One, I can actually just left click on it, right? Or left click on it, and then I will get that item selected like you see here. Or I can hold down Control on my keyboard and I can choose to select multiple things. So I can select this beam and this beam and this beam. You know, by holding down the Control key on my keyboard, I can get those multiple different items. Another way to select things is to box select. Now, the box select feature that you may be familiar with, I'm going to turn the visibility on this page down just so it's a little bit easier to see. It allows you to click and drag on the canvas, but it actually operates two different ways. So the first way, if I go from left to right as I drag, so I'm going to pull this and drag around these hangers here. Notice that I only get those hangers because when I go from left to right, the way that the box select function works is it will only highlight what you are entirely around. So it doesn't matter if you crossed it with, you know, or touched it with the box, it only is going to select it if you've totally encompassed it within that box. So here, so again, I'm just going to show you, I go from left to right, I'm drawing the box, I'm only encompassing those hangers. Even though I've crossed those joists, I only get the hangers. On the other hand, if I was essentially to draw that same box, but this time I'm going to go from right to left will select or anything that you've totally encompassed and anything that you actually have crossed with that box perimeter. So in this case, you can see my box perimeter is crossing those joists as well as that beam underneath. So therefore, and also the floor container itself. So when I'm done here, I'm going to get those different joists are going to be highlighted. The container is going to be highlighted. The hangers are going to be highlighted. So I'll release this and we can see what happens. So I get just that. Now you can see that these joists up here are not highlighted because I didn't cross those joists. But since I crossed these joists, those are highlighted. So left to right, totally encompass, right to left, only what you actually have crossed. So you can leverage that for different things. And then the final comment is, when it comes to selecting things, you're not limited to only one pattern. You can use any and all of those selection opportunities there in combination with each other. So for example, let's say I come to the takeoff items list and I click here, here's all my LVL beams. So I click it and all those items become selected. If I don't want all of those, I only wanted one of them, or actually I only wanted two of them, I could come over here while I'm holding Control and choose to instead, actually, I guess I can't do that, but I can come over here and I can add to my selection. So let's say I click on this one and I hold down the Control and I left click and I pull up the next one there. I could also zoom in on this area and I could choose to include my rim in that selection. Or I could hold down Control and select this, or I can even go further and hold down Control and box select around just the rest of these hangers. So you can continue to add to your selection as you go through your process. Once you have your selection made, and this is kind of the final touch to this, is that you're able to act on that group of items by holding down Control. So here, so I'm going to just make this simple and just go back to these three beams. I'm going to say I'm going to select out these three beams, and I want all these beams to be 2-ply now instead of 3. So I can hold down Control and right click. You can see my menu at the top now looks different. It says line segments 3. So I'm operating all 3 of these. So I can go to my plies. I can set all these to 2-ply. So now I can act on the entire group at once instead of being, you know, just like individually one at a time going and changing all those items. When it comes to multi-select, if I was to select this whole thing right here, I've got a whole bunch of stuff here, all a bunch of different kinds of things. If I hold down Control and right click, first I'm going to get this sort of initial menu that says, yeah, you have lots of different types of things here. So choose which thing you want to work on. So in this case, maybe I want to work on the line segments and change their split overlap or their plies. or maybe I want to go to the container sections and choose to add or remove the area from them. So different things that you could do for those different items. Those are the section edges. Where I wanted to be was I guess I don't have the container areas there. Oh, they're there right there. And so I can go to area add or area remove. So lots of different ways that you can do it, but just keep in mind that you can get to a lot of different stuff quickly, and you can control what you're getting to by using those different selection methods. Final thing to touch on today is copy and paste functionality. And again, lots of ways that you could actually leverage this, but in this case, let's say that I've drawn in this left-hand side of this duplex. I could have hand drawn in the rest of it, but rather than going to all those extra clicks and everything, I've only drawn the left side. Now I can just select it like this, so I have it all selected. I come up here to the top, I'm going to choose to remember or copy. Control C also works. And once I've done that, now I'm going to choose to paste or stamp it. Control V also works. And I'm going to come here, and I'm going to choose a reference point first. So I've selected this, I've said I want to copy this, and I said I wanted to paste it. Now I'm going to say relative to this point here on my copied item, I'm going to left click this corner. I want now that relative corner to come right here. So I click my second time to indicate where I want that to be stamped at. So I stamp it in that location, and I've got a whole match of everything there. And I can also, while this is still highlighted, I can choose to flip and rotate this as needed. So I'm going to flip this horizontally. And now I've got that stuff in place. And if it ever wasn't landed exactly where I wanted, I could use the move function, again, while this is still selected, to be able to get it where everything goes. Lots of opportunities there, especially in roofs. Is a place where a lot our estimators in-house will often use that. You got like different turrets or different things that flip over back inside each other, or hand cut roofs where one side basically matches the other when you have different dormers and lots of different beams and valleys that you've drawn in. So if you start to look for those lines of symmetry in your project, it actually can start to save you a fair amount of clicks if you look to see where are those at, and let me just copy and paste this and flip it over and copy and paste again and flip it over again. You can start to duplicate different types of projects pretty quickly. So yeah, keep those things in mind as you apply those. So that's all we had for the day. We've recorded this session. I'll remind you again that we do for sure have one or more of these planned next week. So I encourage you to sign up for that. And if you're aware of somebody who didn't get the recording or didn't get to see it and wants the recording, just come and ask us for that link. Or actually, I'll just show you right here where we tend to post those. I'm going to come to my help menu and go to Online Learning Center. And here in our Online Learning Center, if you come here to demo videos, in the training videos, and then a webinar training video on demand. That's where we tend to have those different webinars as we record them and post them. So take advantage of those. And yeah, so we look forward to being with you again next week, and hope you all have a Merry Christmas. Talk to you later.